Hey, welcome back, guys. My name is Joe Evangelisti.
Don Palladino.
And we're here to talk about construction projects this morning. And, I've been in this construction industry my entire life. I don't want to tell you how old I am, but since I was about 8 years old, I was swinging a hammer and using the taping knife. My dad was in the drywall business, and I've been, I don't know, just getting dirty and running around doing building my whole life. And Dom?
Yeah, I've been in commercial and residential construction management for the last 8 years.
So our company does anywhere between 60 and 80 fix and flip single family residential a year. We do all kinds of make-readies for our rental properties. And Dom and I are going to walk you through this morning what goes through our mind when we pull up to a new property, right? Let's say we go out and we do an acquisition. This happens right before closing. Our acquisitions team has already gone out. They've decided what the ARV is, the after repair value. They've decided what the spread needs to be. They've decided that the purchase price is okay. Sometime between that time frame, Dom may have inspected the property to make sure it was okay. Someone on our team has at least verified that it's worth purchasing, right? We've acquired the funding, and we've gone to closing, or we're in the process of going to closing. So depending on a lot of other things, we might be somewhere along that timeline, but there'll be some other training videos on how all that works. But today we're going to focus solely on doing the walkthrough, what goes through our heads when we're on the walkthrough, how Dom puts his numbers together, how he inspects the property to try to find pitfalls of the property, benefits of the property, opportunities of the property. We're going to give you some of our background and our knowledge and some of the things that we do to monetize the property, and then all the way down to the point where we get our subcontractors, our general contractors, starting the process. So Dom, walk us through. You pull up first time to the property, or maybe first or second time you've been to the property, but you're getting ready. You have your notepad, and you want to do an inspection. What's the first thing that goes through your mind when you get there?
So you want to get the condition of you want to pull up to the house and just do a bird's eye view of the property. Just give it a quick walk around, understand what you're getting yourself into. Take a look at the street. And you can compare kind of what condition that the subject property is to what everything else looks like on the street. This is good for, you don't want to over-improve properties, but you do want to have a very good house on the street. So you want to do things that'll help it stand out.
Yeah, I think that's so, oh my God, it's so important, because I think one of the challenges that people have is, first of all, HGTV, right? It is like the probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to the United States of America. Don't quote me on that one. But no, I mean, the challenge is, right, like everybody wants to take a rehab property and turn it into like the nicest Beverly Hills thing that they've ever seen in their entire life, right? And the challenge is that, after doing literally hundreds of rehabs, we might be approaching 1,000 by this point, I have no idea, but people want to purchase something that's clean, that's maintenance-free, that is comfortable and safe for their family, right? That's what they want. They want some bling, they want some shine, of course they want something that's pretty, but it doesn't have to be, some kind of amazing, like, knock your socks off thing every time, right?
Most people want to put their finishing touches on it. So if you give them a nice, clean, safe template to work off of, that's really what they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. We'll give it a little bit of bling, but mostly it's a nice vanilla box, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. So, all right, so you're outside, you do your walk around, then what happens?
Then we go inside and do another quick overview. We'll go downstairs, we'll go upstairs, we'll go quickly through just to, again, get a baseline.
Make sure we didn't buy a bomb, right?
Make sure we didn't buy a bomb. But then it begins a more detailed approach to going through the property. After we do our quick overviews, we go back to the front door and we start itemizing everything in the property, what needs to be completed, from the smallest hole in the drywall to a piece of trim that needs to be replaced to a boiler or an AC unit. But we start in the entryway, the vestibule, the foyer, whatever you're going to call it, and list everything that needs to be done in that room. We move on to the living room, list every item that needs to be done in that room, because this scope of work is what you're going to be handing over to your contractor, and you want to I hate to say this, but you want to make it so detailed it somewhat insults them. That you're thinking that they're not smart enough to pick up on these things on their own. But you want that for two reasons: A, to make sure they do pick up on it, and B, to make sure that they're not over improving or changing things that could otherwise be left alone. Such as, we're not going to change out every ceramic tile floor. If it's in good shape and it matches the finishes that we're going to be putting in there, it can stay. But the contractor needs to know that it's going to stay before they start to demo those tiles.
Yeah, and I think the big idea behind it is to make it, at the end of the day, remember, there's going to be multiple people bidding on this list, and you want to compare apples to apples, right? One of the biggest challenges I think people start out with, especially in their first couple rehabs, is they want to make the list kind of gray in the hopes that the GC is going to somehow miss something and not charge them for it. I think that's the mentality sometimes, is like, if I don't tell them how bad the drywall is, they won't give me a bad bid on it, and then they're going to end up doing extra work for free. It's kind of like a backwards mentality I think a lot of people have. I'd rather give them every single detail of what it is, and then we'll negotiate the price once we have to negotiate the price, right? But giving them every detail of what's in every single room will force them to have to line item bid everything, right? And then make sure we're comparing apples to apples, which we'll get into later, right, Tom?
Sure.
So you're walking through the house, and you get through the living room. What happens in like a bathroom, for example, when you get into something that needs to be just gutted to the studs?
So if we have to gut it to the studs, that's actually sometimes easier than working around things that are left behind. But if this is kind of bringing us to the finish list point, where we gut it to the studs, but we've provided the contractor with the materials that we're going to be replacing them with.
Yep.
So they're not going into Home Depot or their supplier and picking out a $800 toilet for a property that's going to resell for $150,000. We've already spec'd out the $200 toilet that we want them to put in there. We've spec'd out the $200 vanity that we want them to put there, the towel bars, the toilet paper holder, the tub, whatever's going in there. We've actually already given them the material list to put in there. And as Joe mentioned, that's going to allow them to bid apples to apples. You don't want a contractor going in, because one's going to bid an $800 toilet, the other's going to bid a $300. Who are you going to go with? The one contractor might have a lower labor price, but they didn't know what toilet you wanted in there, so they just went to Home Depot and picked one that they thought looked nice.
Yeah.
That's not the way to go about it. It'll make your life easier if you spend some time going through Home Depot and writing down exactly what you want in your property, that you can hand over to them and allow everyone to bid properly.
And that's a little bit of legwork, right, Dom? But I mean, that is probably the one thing where you spend the time to do it, you invest the time to get that done, and it pays over and over and over again. Like you barely ever have to update that thing unless the SKU goes bad, right?
Correct. And if you have a good Home Depot Pro Desk, you can actually give a list to them, and they'll go through and do it for you. They'll let you know if SKUs are changing, or things are out of stock, or they're not coming back. Build a relationship with the Pro Desk, and it'll pay dividends for you.
So this is the part of the video actually that's going to drive a lot of people neurotic, right? I have a good friend of mine actually whose wife is a designer, and he flips houses, and she literally has to design every single house, right? I know a lot of people watching this are going to say to themselves, well, Joe, how do you flip houses and they all look alike? Well, they do, right? Dom, like when you flipped, I don't know, the last 30 houses you flipped, they all look alike, right? People say, well, how do you do that? The product all looks alike. Well, first of all, we flip houses in a 30-mile radius. They're not sitting next to each other. So for every finishes list we have an A and a B. A is gray and B is beige, right? They're all modern, and they all have a designer who went out and picked them out once, right? And anytime we want to update, we send the designer out, and she does a quick update. She'll pick out some new tile or some new whatever, new paint color schemes. We'll update the schemes every, 2 years or so?
Every couple of years, and we have different lists for different tiers of properties. So we have one list for properties that we expect to sell for under $150,000. We have another list for properties $150 to $250, and so on and so forth. Because the finishes that are going in the $400,000 property aren't necessarily the same that are going in the $150,000 property.
Absolutely.
But again, all it takes is going around Home Depot, spending a few hours, sending the designer out there, sending the pro desk out there, do the legwork up front, so you can hand something to your contractor, and they'll thank you for it, because they don't want to be going around Home Depot looking at these prices. So it'll pay dividends for you absolutely down the road.
Absolutely, and they can turn around and I think you just touched on that, but they can compile the materials list and the actual quantities they need and everything else, and just give it to Home Depot and get prices back, right, for that project.
Sure.
So it makes it easier for them to just turn around and say what they need. Those finishes lists are absolutely, and people think that it's some kind of like, I need to get to a point where I'm doing 10 deals at a time in order to need that. No, I mean, we had that back when I was doing 10 deals a year, and I had finishes lists. I had done the legwork. I had decided that I had spent way too many nights and weekends. I used to run around and on a Saturday afternoon pick up tile for projects. Like, if you find yourself doing that, stop. Just the next time you're at Home Depot, bring a spreadsheet and fill in the blanks, right?
I mean, it's theoretically impossible for two contractors to give you two accurate bids without knowing what materials that you expect into your property.
Absolutely.
So it's really the only way to do it.
So I want to personally cover just some of the pros and cons of things that you can do when you're doing the walkthrough in the house. I think one of the challenges that people do, especially in a lot of these rehabs, is they over-improve. They overdo things, especially in lower price point properties. I see so many people gutting houses to the studs, Don. Don, how many houses have we, besides new construction like pop tops, how many times have you gutted a house to the studs on a rehab?
None.
Right? I don't think we've ever done it. Like, guys, if I see one more person gut a house to the studs, it's unbelievable how much money is being wasted. Here's the thing. You can take knob and tube, especially in the Northeast, and you can actually put all new wiring in a house without ripping all the plaster, drywall, whatever it is, down to the studs. You can insulate a house without ripping the plaster and drywall out of a house. You can do just about everything you need to do to a house without ripping it down to the studs. And people say, well, Joe, it's cheap. You're just doing, it's 10 grand for demo, and then we're back and we're starting from scratch. No, you're not, guys. You're not thinking about the 10 grand for demo, all the new drywall going back up. You're ripping all the trim out of the property. You're retrimming the entire property. Now we're repainting the entire property with one or two primer coats, because you have bare drywall going back up instead of primered product on the walls. So there's so many times when people increase their budget by 40% because they rip the stuff down to the drywall or down to the studs, instead of just working with what they have. Moving walls that don't need to be moved, right? Opening things up by putting in expansive beams instead of just making an opening, right? Taking out load-bearing walls when you don't need to take out load-bearing walls. Just super expansive stuff that costs tens of thousands of dollars, over-improving things that don't need to be over-improved. I mean, I did it for a long time, and I made all these mistakes. It's the only reason I try to teach people not to do it anymore. Putting granite in places that don't need granite. I mean, we started putting Formica, the high-end Formica, in places up to like $250, right? I mean, I've had buyers walk into a house and touch what's that Formica that looks like granite? You know that, the product, whatever it's called. They walked in and went, wow, this is nice granite. It's not granite, it's Formica, And then the excuse is always with the rehabbers, well, granite only costs $2,500 or $3,500 when the Formica is $1,500. It's only $2,000. It's $2,000 that should be in your pocket, right? And when it doesn't make a difference to the end user, again, end user wants clean, usable product, right? And they're not used to seeing granite in a $150,000 home, folks, right? So, again, understanding your end user, what they're looking for, and why you're going to do what you do, right? Another thing we've started to do is if the heater is less than 15 years old, it's serviceable, it's in good condition, you can get your heating specialist to verify it's good. Don't rip it out. Like we're not getting rid of utilities that are in good shape, right? If the roof's in good shape, if the windows are in good shape, we're not going to over-improve things that don't need to be improved. Again, this business is about giving people a clean, safe, dry, relatively maintenance-free house, the best that we can, and get them into a property that's going to be safe for them and their families, right?
Sure.
So we get through that property. You've gone room by room at this point. You have a complete line item breakdown scope of work. Take us through what happens next. You've gone through your finishes list, and now you're getting ready to design your RFP. What's an RFP?
Sure. So that's a request for a proposal. But before you even get to that point, you want to put together a budget yourself.
Okay.
So you're going to use the information from your finish list. You're going to go through your scope of work, and you're going to plug your numbers in there that you expect this property to, or this project to cost. This is good both for yourself, and if you have to present this to an investor, they're going to know what they're getting themselves into. So they're going to request a budget. But this is a process that takes time. I wouldn't say on your first time putting together a budget you're going to get it close. You're probably actually going to be over budgeting at that point. You're going to be expecting things to cost a lot more than they really do. But over time, you get more comfortable with what your contractors are charging, what the rates are in your area. You'll be able to hone in on that and put together a pretty accurate budget. So once you have that done, you expect the project's going to cost $40,000. Great. Then it's time to put together an RFP to send out to your contractors. The rule of thumb in the industry is to get 3 bids per project. Make sure that your contractors are licensed and insured. They can provide you with a W-9. They have references, all of those good things. Once you have all of that taken care of, send them out the scope of work, send them out the bid sheet, and give them a few days to put some numbers together. We like to walk the properties with our contractors just to make sure that they know exactly what we're talking about. As detailed as our scopes of work are, they still have questions, and we have to answer them, and we want to answer them up front. So again, that saves us time and money on the back end.
Yeah, questions always lead to overbidding, folks. So if you send somebody an RFP and it says, I want, 10 outlets, or, I'm trying to come up with a good example, but something where they're like, well, where do they want the 10 outlets? Do they want them just all in the living room, or do they want them all over the house? And I got to run wire up to the second story. Well, running 10 outlets to the second story might cost 3 times as much than just putting the 10 outlets in the living room, because the living room is right over top of the basement and the panel's only 20 feet away. Right? So, knowing exactly where those outlets have to go and how far they have to run them and how much, cable they need and everything else is going to actually help them dial in. If you just said 10 outlets, they might throw a cost of, $2,000 in there, where it might only be, $500 in labor to run them into one room over top of the, panel. So, clarifying exactly what it is that you need is going to get you the best price. Anytime there's a question mark, they're going to shoot high. So, and to backtrack a second, if you're not good enough at getting that price and that budget off the top of your head before you send it out for RFP, then it's good to know some contractors or ask around and get them to give you a few quotes to just try to get you in a ballpark first, right?
Sure.
There. Awesome, Don. Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys walking through. Guys, I appreciate you watching this video, and if you like this video and you want to see more of it, please share it with other people you think they might find some value in it. Please respond back to the video or comment below depending on where you're watching it. Let us know if you'd like to see some more. Let us know if you have any questions about the video, or if you'd like any other type of videos like this. If you're a contractor and you're watching this video and you'd like to do some joint venture opportunities with us, or you'd like to work for us or work for Dom, make sure you message us below or message us in the email here. And thanks again.
See you guys.